Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockroom Supply. Now, you guys are all woodworkers, so you know there is a wide variety of different kinds of glues that you can get for woodworking, and they're all very different, and they all serve kind of a different purpose. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the different glues that we sell and kind of tell you what they do, where to use them, how to use them, and why they're good, I guess. So let's get started with the Akfix D2. This is kind of the most popular glue that we sell. It's a really standard wood glue. Akfix D2, this would be kind of the equivalent to a Titebond 2, which a lot of you guys would be familiar with. So this has some kind of interesting properties that Titebond doesn't have. But yeah, this guy here, I'll run a bead of glue on the piece of wood so you can see. Oh, should shake it here first. So there's my bead. So one thing you'll notice, compared to a lot of wood glues that you might use, it's fairly viscous. It's quite thick. You can see that bead standing up tall. That's kind of a nice thing because when you're doing glue ups, that means that viscous glue isn't going to have a lot of long drips down the piece that you guys are all familiar with. Now this guy, the D2, is going to have about a 4-minute open time. So it gives you some time to get going on your clamping and whatnot. And the other thing to note about it, and you'll see this a little bit later, but that's going to dry a lot different than a regular glue. And I'll show you that at the end. It's kind of exciting. So that's the Akfix D2. It is also water resistant. So this would be good for pretty much all your run-of-the-mill woodworking projects, for glue ups, for things like that. You can do it. You can still wash the stuff that you've been gluing. So it's kind of a neat little product. Now, the D3, main difference here, this is water resistance. They call this waterproof. These are PVA glues, so they are all water based. So even a glue like that, the Akfix D3, basically much like the Titebond 3, waterproof, really that means it's just more water resistant because it is water based. So eventually that would break down in water. But this is much like the D2, couple things that make it a little bit different. Here's my bead right here. Very similar bead of glue. Also quite viscous, which is nice, so it'll lead to fewer long drips. That has about an 8-minute open time rather than the 4-minute on the D2. So about twice as long, which does make it a little bit easier if you have a complex project that you are looking to glue up. So this is indoor or outdoor glue. So this would be good for outdoor furniture, anything like a charcuterie board, kitchen utensils, things like that you're going to be getting wet and wash. This would be kind of the ideal glue. It is a little bit more expensive than the D2, but it's also really neat. So once it dries, I'll show you what it looks like here. So then, those are the PVAs. Those are always going to be the strongest glues when you're gluing wood to wood options you can get. Now there are some other glues that are kind of very interesting for woodworkers. And we'll go to the CA glues here. So the CAs, cool thing about them, they come in all sorts of different viscosities. So we got thin, there's also a medium, and then thick. So if we go to the thin here, I'll run a bead down here. Very, very thin. And you can see it's just spreading along, it's soaking into the wood there. So this thin CA glue is very popular in the wood churning world and for the live edge guys. So wood churners, if you have a crack in your bowl blank that you're trying to churn, this will often be used almost like a wood hardener. So they'll put this on here, they'll spray the Accelerator on, which I'll show you in a second, and then they'll go and churn it, and this will make it a lot safer. It's less likely to kind of explode, for lack of a better word. Also, live edge guys, they will put this all over the bark, and that will soak into the bark and actually keep it attached for a lot longer than it would be normally to your piece. So then if we go to the thick, the medium is kind of more of a multi-purpose, does a little bit of everything, but the thick, we'll put a bead down here. A lot more viscous. This would pretty much be used for filling voids in pieces. So if you have if you just did a big epoxy pour on a large tabletop, you want to fill a void in that epoxy pour, and you don't want to mix a new batch of epoxy, this is what you'd use right there. The other really neat thing about both these, or all these CA glues, is they have Accelerator. I'll spray Accelerator on half of it. Oops. If we spray that Accelerator within about 30 seconds, that's going to be dry enough. You can see that crystallize right there. That's going to be dry enough to sand. So that's pretty neat as well. So that makes it really nice if you're in a hurry. Then the other thing about them, they do come in different colors. This is a black. There's also a brown, which is, again, really nice for the guys filling voids, because rather than a clear, you could have a black. And they do also come with these little micro tips. I'll throw that on there. So I got this little knot. But this allows you to get really accurate to where you want to work. And you can fill that right up. Here we go. And then spray it with your Accelerator. Whoops. And then that would be ready to sand. There. So those are the CAs. There's also some really neat glues for woodworking. Then the final one I'll show you here is the Akfix PA360. This is a polyurethane glue. Commonly, you guys would think of Gorilla Glue for polyurethane glue. This is much like that. So if we open this up, I'll put a bead down there. This looks totally different than all the other glues I showed you so far. But there you go. Now, cool thing about this, it is a marine grade glue. So it is the most water resistant or waterproof of any of these glues out here. So for fixing boats, for outdoor signs or outdoor furniture, this is a really, really cool option, this polyurethane glue. Now, I do recommend, and everyone will recommend, you're going to want to brush that flat before you let it dry, as when that dries, that will kind of foam up, which I'll show you in a second. So yeah, I'm going to leave these glues here till tomorrow, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at what they look like when they're all 100% dry. Okay, so we left it overnight, maybe about 12 hours or so. So if we come down and we look at it, let's start at the first one we use, the D2 Akfix. So main thing here, unlike standard wood glues like a Titebond 2, that is transparent. So if you got a glue line, especially on a light piece of wood, you're not going to see it. You're not going to have a dark brown line. And that's especially important on the D3. If you guys have ever used a Titebond 3, you will have seen kind of the dark line that will leave when you're done your glue up. So on dark woods, not a problem, but when you're dealing with light woods like maple, that can become a bit of an issue. So that's really cool. Someday I will do a direct comparison of the Titebond and the Akfix, because it is worth seeing it side by side. So the thin CA, you can see that there, not much has changed. The thick CA, it's kind of crystallized here, and that chemical reaction with the Accelerator is pretty much continued the whole length. If you don't use the Accelerator, that gives you a better idea of what it'll look like. So a little more consistent. Now that, if I were to sand it, is still solid. It doesn't have any voids on the inside, but it looks a little bit funny until you sand it. The black CA is all dry here. Now at the very last one, the polyurethane, the PA360, you can kind of see how it's foamed up, and the bead of glue has actually gotten about twice as big. So this polyurethane glue goes a long way when you use it. You don't need much of it, and then that's why you're always going to want to brush it on, because you don't want one side of your piece lifting up or something like that. So yeah, those are kind of the main glue options. Those are some of the most popular glues that woodworkers will use, and those are the glues that we sell. So yeah, I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an understanding of what you're going to use them for and how they are different from one another. So yeah, if anybody else has any questions, you can email me at info@stockroomsupply.com, or just comment on the video. Now, if you want to see future videos, make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell button. Also, add us on Instagram. Thank you much.